Our story today begins with a show of a city at night, where a lot of interesting things are definitely happening. But just a young couple who decided to have a board game night and diligently played cards. The boy tried to play with all his might, and seeing that the lady liked to play, he realized that she had not met worthy opponents for a long time. The lady's name is Hyunjin, and he wondered if she had a boyfriend. It turns out that this lady decided to play cards while she had a boyfriend. But she just smiles at this guy and says that everything will be fine. Nothing bad will happen. After such a creepy smile, the guy wakes up with terrible screams because he had a nightmare. The boy tries to bring his breathing back to normal, reassuring himself that it was just a dream. It was just like a real curse because as soon as he forgot about it, he immediately remembered it again. In his opinion, it is better not to have dreams at all than to have nightmares with his ex-girlfriend. Although they had parted for a long time, the main character still could not forget her. It's quite difficult to forget girls like Hyunjin. It turns out that they already lived together and thought that it would be like that for the rest of their days. But only when the main character found out about it, he couldn't even get very angry with her. What a damn weakling. In the end, he simply broke up with her, and now the main character was worried about whether he could fall in love with someone else. He immediately hits himself on the cheeks to drink the extra thoughts out of his head. Of course he will succeed. First, he will need to reinstate himself at the university, and then take care of the belts of his new love. Today there was supposed to be a meeting of the first years and the boy wanted to come, especially remembering what happened last time. But last time it turns out there were a lot of beautiful ladies, and now the main character has an incentive to go there. Suddenly, looking at his watch, the boy realized that at this rate he would miss his lecture. Now he had to quickly prepare. After which we are shown a boy who is already sitting at his desk. Because he slept so little last night, he is now terribly tired to death. Suddenly, an incredibly handsome guy with red hair comes up to him and asks him about the fact that he didn't sleep last night. Why did they think it was cool that he has black eyes? Because he looks so much like a guy who uses his energy for its intended purpose. This was all pretty cool for our boy, but he talks about having nightmares and now it doesn't sound so great. In this case, the guy with red hair decides to ask if he doesn't have the strength, he won't be at the freshman meeting. But suddenly he just hits his desk with his palms and starts yelling about how there are no tired, reinstated students. He will have to work here for a long time. But his friend asked him not to shout at the whole office. He's completely crazy. Coming out of the building, our main character thinks about how beautiful the weather is and that it would be great if he had a girlfriend, since such an opportunity turned up. The guy in a green sweatshirt says that he is courting someone. In response, our boy, like a true friend, begins to make fun of him. But the guy with red hair also gives an answer. If he suddenly needs advice, then let him ask. It will help. After which we see a crowd of ladies who gathered around a guy with glasses and were simply shocked by how he takes care of his facial skin. They were all going to invite him to eat. Our two losers walked by and thought that Junyong Sunbai is as popular as always among girls, even a little jealous. But the boy with red hair says that this is quite natural because he is the president of the student council. Besides, he has a noble family and excellent grades. It would be strange if he did not have a crowd of fans. That popular guy already had a girlfriend, but even at the same time a huge crowd is running after him. The main character thinks that this is real happiness. Suddenly some lady with black hair walks past him and doesn't pay attention to him. The guy with glasses didn't like it. Our boys thought it was too strange, and it seemed that this was a girl from their faculty. But the guy with red hair immediately asked not to pay attention to her. It's just a popular girl, Hyunju. They definitely didn't have a chance. So it's better to leave. Meanwhile, evening had already come, and our boy was sitting with his friends at the bar and drinking drinks, no matter how he managed to get out, and he thanked Dongwoo for this opportunity. Suddenly, the girl says something strange like that it was too easy for them, and then the guy with red hair realizes that she has already drunk quite a lot of drinks. This lady definitely drank too much and started asking the main character, maybe he liked someone today. Our boy gave a negative answer, but his friend asked him not to cheat because there are so many beautiful girls here. Now the main character began to think, and the only girl who appeared in his head was that lady with black hair. At first my friend didn't understand who the guy was talking about, but our guy gave a more detailed description, with a short haircut and a leather jacket. He just exhales, realizing that it was Hyun. Ju and the girl starts to get scared because they saw her. Our boy tries to calm her down by saying that they just passed by and the girl exhaled. All the same, she decides to warn the boy about this lady. If he suddenly meets her, he'd better run away and generally be more vigilant, but the main character didn't understand what was wrong with her. Looking back, she simply whispered that she was a gold digger. I'll explain to you that this is the girl who is looking for an exclusively rich guy for herself. After such a fright, the actions are transferred to the street when the main character was returning home and thought that he was terribly tired. Even today, he had to run a little. As soon as he gets home, he's going to eat ramen or something, still to regain strength. Suddenly in the distance, he notices a familiar image, but he just can't understand what kind of person it is. Still, the realization comes to him that this is Hyun-jo, and he are trying to understand what she is doing here. Maybe she has a friend living nearby or a house nearby. Suddenly, he remembers the terrible words of his girlfriend that she is a gold digger and tries to pretend as if he is not there at all. The boy simply decides to hide around the nearest corner. It would be better to wait a little because it would be awkward to run into her. Like a real ninja from Naruto, he looks out and tries to understand whether the girl has left. He decided to go home as soon as possible. It was quite problematic to hide from someone, especially after so many drinks. After which, the main character was already standing at his door and could not believe that he could finally just sleep peacefully. But there was something strange. The boy noticed someone not far from him. No matter how strange it was, it turns out to be exactly that lady with black hair, but why the hell was she near his house? And at that moment, the boy began to understand what situation he was in, but she did not understand why he was looking at her like that. Another piece of advice from his friend appears in his head, because not only was she a gold digger, she was also a girl with a simply terrible character, so the guy only had more reasons to worry. Meanwhile, he simply could not believe the situation in which he found himself. Why the hell does this lady live in the apartment next door? The main character just wanted to quickly pick up his keys and go into the apartment, but it seemed to him that everything they were saying about the girl was not true. Of course, when he sees such a girl, the boy begins to worry, but he urgently needed to calm down and behave naturally. Judging by his face, the situation has become even more awkward. He only talks about the fact that his name is Park Ki-bum, and he is a recently recovered sunbae. Suddenly, the girl just started hiccuping, and Puck thought that she also drank quite a lot of drinks. It's quite difficult to describe further actions. The lady simply unleashes a barrage of terrible words on him and generally says that he stinks of cheese. Why the hell is he even attached to her? Her remark did not stop there, and while she continued to call him names, the main character simply stood in shock and did not understand what to do now. Puck just asked for forgiveness and was about to leave, but in his thoughts he thought that drinks were just a terrible thing, and that the rumors that were about her turned out to be true. Her character really is terribly vile. As soon as the boy turns away for just a second, the girl completely disappears from his field of vision, so she definitely has ninja skills. After which we are shown how Puck lies calmly in his bed, remembers his dream, and thinks that he is a real loser, because in the end, that lady turned out to be his neighbor. And only then does he come to the realization that his student life could completely go downhill. Hyun was in the next apartment, Ju, and he couldn't believe that such a girl could cry. Due to poor sound insulation, everything was heard very well. It seems that the main character is too stupid, and therefore cannot understand that she is not really crying. Yes, he's really stupid and he feels sorry for that girl. The guy starts to think that something happened to her, or that she just drank a lot of drinks. Crying after she had a fight? God, he's so stupid. Now Puck thought that that lady had bipolar disorder. The next morning, our boy decided to meet his friend and drink a can of soda, of course. After hearing the news, he was simply in shock. Surprisingly, there was no aisle, and the guy with red hair can't believe that Hyun-ju is now his neighbor. A friend thinks that with such luck, the main character needs to buy more lottery tickets, and Puck himself was also shocked. When suddenly he begins to think about strange things that attract the attention of the main character. Of course, he can't think about anything serious and just thinks that it's fate for them to meet. Puck just thought that he was mocking him. It seems that he liked this plan, even though that lady had a terrible character, but at the same time she was terribly beautiful. But the main character did not understand why he said that because he himself warned him that it was better not to mess with the girl. Still, the guy with red hair thought it was a great idea, but Puck would never agree to such an adventure in his life. Still, there was one thing. The crying that he heard in the next room was so bitter that it touched him to the core. Rest assured, Puck, she was also touched to the core then. The boy with red hair seriously asked what the main character was thinking about. Was it really about Hyun? Ju. Of course not. The friend simply tells Puck not to constantly think about the fact that now she is his neighbor, because she can tire him. But he doesn't have to worry. The main character is not such a fool as to constantly think about it. When suddenly the action shifts to that sunbae with glasses to whom the girl just came. She just wanted to know what he was doing at the moment. The lady's name was Na-un. It's just that the next couple was supposed to be society and law, and so he decided to get ready. She thought that Sunbai would definitely graduate from university with honors because he studies every day. Before, there was very little time left for the student council meeting, and the girl didn't understand when he was going to rest. But he only does this when there is nothing to do. It turns out that her next couple also had society and the right, and therefore she offered to relax together, but he did not understand such a proposal. She simply noticed that Sunbae had terribly tense shoulders and suggested doing a little warm-up. She also says that she didn't prepare at all for today's classes, but at the same time she wants to pass the exam with flying colors. Sunbae just said that he's really tired of sitting here. After which the actions are transferred from the university, and judging by the boy's face, the warm-up has already begun. It turns out that they gathered here to better prepare for the exams. She really was very diligent, and the boy asked how things were going with the research. The lady was only worried about everything being fine, and by the way, she had already finished the research. Today she was going to try out a new type of research, so let Sunbae help her with it. Of course, he was just shocked that she liked studying so much. In my opinion, she studied only to spend time with Sunbae, but it doesn't matter. In any case, he praised her. She still decided to admit that she loves him, but it seems that soon the boy will run out of energy for research. It seems he studied too much, and now she decided to ask if he felt better, and he gave a positive answer. After such a study, his shoulders no longer hurt. Well, that's great. The lady just said that finally there was some benefit from these damn studies. Meanwhile, the action moves to the main character and his friends who were sitting in a cafe and eating noodles. Still, his best friend told this lady that the girl with black hair was his neighbor, and now she was wondering what he was going to do. In response, our main character only smiled awkwardly and said that if this was fate, then he could not do anything about it. But the friend was completely sure that if she lived in the next room, it would simply be impossible to avoid sudden meetings. Puck was just trying to reassure his friends because she had absolutely no plans to start dating the main character, but the girl had a different opinion, because if they live in neighboring apartments, they can get closer. And then she comes up with a simply brilliant plan, reliable as a Swiss watch. What will happen if our boy himself invites her on a date? Of course, our boy just sat there in shock and didn't understand what kind of date we were even talking about, because she simply couldn't stand him. But this lady is full of optimism. The main character was always alone, and it would be just a great opportunity if he shared love with a loved one. And if the boy does this, he will be able to worry much less about Hyun Juno. The guy with red hair got goosebumps just from her name. Still, Puck decides to take her words into account a little. There was some truth in them. In this case, she is going to introduce him to a girl who goes to classes with her. If the main character starts dating someone, then all his worries will disappear. That lady's name is Han Young Jung. Just a great idea, but it seems like it's rushing things. Young Jung was free tonight, and so she was going to have a romantic date. Suddenly, a guy with red hair asks if the girl she is going to introduce him to is beautiful, but she begins to get angry and does not understand why he needs this information. Realizing that now the girl is angry with him, the guy begins to shift responsibility onto the main character, saying that in fact he was going to ask, of course, Puck will cover his friend in such a situation. Oh, these men. She convinces the main character that she is somewhat similar to a cat, and even in character, Puck thinks it's quite cute. Well, the guy just misunderstood her because her character is like that of a wild cat. While the main character wanted to find out what she meant by the wild cat, the lady realized that it was time to leave. They started getting ready, and she asked the main character not to worry so much because she would remind him of the date tonight, and Puck turned out to be motivated. Strike while the iron is hot, as they say. But as soon as they left, he began to think about the situation he found himself in. The boy was not against a date, and since he had nothing to lose, he went on it. But before that, he needed to stop by the dean's office to pick up the news. And now the boy was already at the university, but it was strange that there was no one in the office. But no, there was one strange lady who was trying to get something from under the table. She terribly scared the main character with her appearance. While the boy was just thinking that Nuna was an incredible beauty, she also began to scare her because she didn't know that there was someone there all this time. Taking on a more work-like appearance, the girl asks what brought him here. He just bowed and said that he was a recently restored student named Pak and would like to pick up the news. She asked the boy to wait a little because she didn't remember where she left the document. While the main character tried not to pay attention to what was happening, she had already managed to find the necessary document. Suddenly, another character appears in the office, and turning around, we see horror on the face of the main character. Of course, it turns out that this is his neighbor and part-time girl with whom it is better for him not to cross paths again. As she said earlier, she came here to quit the lecture, but the secretary did not understand why she wanted to do such a terrible thing. It turns out that some of the children were simply very irritable, and she could no longer calmly teach them lessons, no matter how her decision was made. The secretary noticed that in fact they recovered at the same time, and perhaps they knew each other. But our boy only thought that the girl with black hair might start hysterical again. The main character wanted to say that he was very pleased to meet her, but the lady said goodbye to the secretary and was about to leave. Of course, The boy was offended that she simply ignored his words. After all, she really was a very difficult person. Now the guy remembered that strange incident at the door of the house. Is she really able to remember everything even after drinking so many drinks? Just an amazing ability. The secretary noticed that the boy was upset that he was ignored and told him that Hyunju is always like an angry chicken. After which the action moves to the apartment of the boy who was going on a date. Just look how handsome he is. He still thought that taking the chance to meet a beautiful girl was a great idea, and today he feels especially alive. Yes, he is absolutely full of optimism, because he will finally have a relationship and there will be true love. He tried to cheer himself up that everything would work out for Park Ki-bum. After which the action moves to a couple who were watching non-working TV and sitting in complete silence. Suddenly the girl made the best offer that could be made in this situation, namely to immediately start playing chess. Of course, the boy didn't expect them to play board games and the girl asked if he didn't want to compete, but the reason was different. She asked him to think carefully about her proposal because they would not wait for the moment when the film ended. Well, to hell with it. A guy probably gets such a chance once in his life, so the game of chess begins anyway. Having looked carefully, she was surprised that the boy was prepared and had already placed the playing pieces. And when everything was ready to begin, the girl suggested starting the most exciting chess game. While the guy stood simply shocked by what was happening, the girl only thought that this time they would not watch the film and would simply play until victory. And not much time passed and the guy had already made several moves that amazed the girl. She could not believe that he took so many moves. The action of the game has already ended, and unfortunately they won't tell us who was the winner. The lady said that she would leave first and the film would soon end. And the boy just stood there, still in shock from having played chess with such a beautiful girl named C, and he was wondering when they could see each other next time. The guy asked too many questions about the area around the school, and when he could go to the school she was talking about. But she just started to leave saying that she doesn't like it when her privacy is invaded. Invasion of privacy is just disgusting, so she just leaves. Meanwhile, our trio had already gathered in the cafe and were waiting for the date to start. The main character was so worried, even his legs were already hurting from the fact that he had been sitting and waiting for so long. Of course, friends simply could not help but joke in this situation. Let the main character behave naturally and try to eat slowly. Finally, young John appeared on the horizon, and the lady began to call her to the table. And now she looked quite nice, not like a few minutes ago. Of course, at the sight of such a beautiful girl, our boy was simply in shock and could not even say a word. They just sat and were silent for a long time, and the smartest thing our boy managed to come up with was to say that he had heard a lot about the girl. And it turns out she did too. Well, panic began. The guy urgently needed to come up with a topic for conversation, and now he blamed himself for not thinking in advance what they would talk about. That his friends said were remembered in his head. Cats are just a great topic for conversation. Suddenly, this idiot says that he has heard a lot about her love for cats. Her friend immediately choked on her drink, and the girl opposite only confirmed that she likes them. Then our main character understands that his friend was saying that she looked like a cat, and not that she liked them. Now the boy was going to fall through the ground because he was terribly embarrassed. While everyone understood that the main character said complete nonsense, the girl with black hair did not understand what was happening because she really liked cats. To lighten the situation a little, the boy says that he likes them too, but judging by his friend's face, he won't be able to stand it now and will start neighing like a horse. She asked to wait a minute, and the main character didn't like the fact that someone was calling her so often. He had already begun to think about the fact that the girl was busy, and his friends were already all red from holding back laughter. The interesting conversation continued, and someone asked the question, "What do you do to relax?" The main character really thought about this question. He just said that he often watches movies or drinks and also likes to sleep, so he sleeps quite a lot. After that, the lady with black hair even laughed because they had a lot in common. Sleeping is also her favorite pastime. To change the situation a little, the friend says that he and the girl will go away for a while, and for now they can be alone. The main character starts to panic and asks them to stay, but the guy with red hair already said that they came here only for a while. Let him handle the rest himself. The guy with red hair says that if they start dating, then the main character will owe a favor, and the girls said goodbye to each other. It was terrible for the boy to be in such an atmosphere, and he didn't know what to do now, when suddenly the girl herself decided to talk to him. She just asked to omit all the formalities and immediately switched to familiarity. The boy didn't understand why she so abruptly decided to switch to you, but she repeated once again so that Appa would drop the formalities. It seemed to the girl that a blind date was not the best way to get acquainted, so she decided to go to some place where they could drink drinks and talk calmly. While the main character was in shock and did not understand why events were developing so quickly, the girl told him that everything was fine, and it was time to leave. And now the action moves to the bar where the guys were already relaxing and drinking drinks in a more relaxed atmosphere. The girl became more cheerful than before and said that these drinks are great for reviving, and Puck was simply shocked because the girl drank so easily. He finally decides to ask her if she really drinks that often, but she just says that in fact she just wanted to drink today, to be honest. For both of them, blind dates were a terrible way to meet each other. But suddenly she asked him not to hesitate because her glass was already empty. Like a real man, he pours a drink for a lady. The main character no longer liked the fact that she was receiving so many notifications, and he told her about it. She only asked him not to pay attention. She drank so many drinks that she was not going to answer anyone. Some time passed and even more drinks began to be drunk. The girl's mood even lifted and the boy offered to order something to eat. God, how it infuriated her that she received such a large number of notifications that people generally needed from her. But with one awkward movement, the phone ends up on the floor, and the boy decides to help her and pick it up himself. But he accidentally saw a message that said that the girl was looking for worthy opponents in order to play chess, and now his attitude towards her has changed. The girl began to worry a little that something was wrong now, but the main character was in his own thoughts and did not know how to tell her correctly. He simply hands her the phone and asks what this strange message came on her phone. She pretended to be surprised by such a message and said that she had been sitting in this chat all this time out of boredom. It's surprising that people actually write, but the guy didn't immediately believe that it was just a joke. But she says that this is not a joke. The girl said that she did it because she was bored, but the boy was not happy with this turn of events. The guy is still sitting in shock. The combination of a large number of drinks and information did not allow him to react normally to this situation. And the girl also reminded that she likes to sleep. She also remembers that the main character told the same thing. Of course, he also loved to sleep. Maybe the message he saw made him want to play chess, and the boy says not much. Suddenly, she makes a very strange face and says that the main character won't even have to look for a rival. Understanding where this conversation is leading, Puck begins to get nervous. And in such cases, she invites him to join the chess club and become real rivals for each other. And so our main character finds himself in an empty room. Of course, he could not have expected that he would be here today. His heart was beating too fast, and it was not clear whether it was because he had drunk a lot of drinks or because he had the chance to play chess with such a beautiful girl. So, when he remembered that the lady invited him to become a member of the club and turn into rivals, he generally fell into shock. After which a girl appears who had just finished her preparations for a game of chess, but the main character had a question: why the hell did she finish her preparations so quickly? Suddenly she noticed that the main character was somehow strangely worried and even trembling with fear. Is it really for meeting such a strong opponent? But our boy is also no slouch and simply knows how to play perfectly. Only after seeing how he positioned his piece did she realize that he had great potential. But this will only make it more interesting for her to fight him, so let her give it her all. She just wanted to hone her skills in chess, but since the opportunity to play with the master came up, she would gladly do it. But the main character doesn't give up so easily, and makes a couple of moves that put her in an awkward position. But oh well, she still manages to repel his attack, and now it's her turn to attack. The room was still empty, and only 2 chess players were in it, no matter how hard he tried. But still, she was a very strong opponent, and he didn't even think that today he would have the opportunity to play chess. Damn it! This lady is a real genius. She makes moves that don't leave the main character a chance to take the lead, but of course he won't give up. Hooray, the attack was repulsed, and now the girl is simply amazed that he did it. The boy turned out to be an extremely good player. For some reason, she decided to ask a rather strange question about whether she was a good player and how well she was doing. Suddenly, the main character decides to take the situation into his own hands and is already applying his plan of attack. The girl was not surprised because a couple of minutes ago he was trembling with fear at the sight of the chessboard, and now he is using moves that drive her into a corner. The boy just says that it was all thanks to the girl who told him about the game, and since because of her he was able to play, he promises to show her the most exciting chess game in history. And finally, everything that was needed for his strategy was ready, and all that remained was to carry out the final plan of attack. It would not be easy. He is going to keep his promise, so she can't count on mercy. Puck lined up all his pieces so as not to give her the opportunity to attack normally. And finally, she admitted that she likes to play chess with the main character because he is a real genius. And now the plan that he had been preparing the whole game would soon come to an end, and there were only a couple of moves left. After which the actions move outside, it turns out that the main character won and could now calmly boast of his victory over the girl, and she only said that she had really fun today. In such cases, our guys say goodbye, and while the main character is about to stop her, our video is coming to an end. Thank you for watching, subscribe to the channel and like so that the new part comes out as soon as possible.